Hey guys, it's Vanessa and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you another What's for Dinner video where I show you what I feed my blended family of 6 from Monday to Friday. I post these videos every Friday night, so take a second and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. Now, let's get right on into Monday. All right, for Monday we're having cheesesteak sandwiches. I went super simple, went to M&M Meat Shop and bought their pre-packaged Philly beefsteak beef, which is awesome. You're gonna see how quickly it cooks up. I just grabbed a few condiments, some mayo and some Dijon that I had in the fridge. I'm gonna cook the beef up with some oil. I had some butter here, I didn't end up using it. Also some pepperoncinis and some hot bell peppers if anybody wants to put those on their sandwiches. I had mine on the side. Also grabbed some mushrooms, peppers and onions because I am gonna fry up kind of like a Philly cheesesteak blend. I've got some tomato and lettuce. Everybody ended up putting that on their sandwiches. These cute little hoagie rolls that I got at the bakery at my last grocery haul, if you want to take a look. I got 3 different kinds of cheese if anybody wants to stay more traditional. I've got provolone, I've got Swiss and Monterey Jack. I'm going to use garlic powder and salt and pepper, no salt seasoning, and Worcestershire sauce to season the beef and serve it up with some chips. So let's get right into these sandwiches. All right, so the first thing I need to do is slice up my peppers relatively thinly so that I can put them in the frying pan with the onions and the mushrooms, and they'll cook up pretty quick. So this is about the thickness that I like to cut mine in. And I know I always say this, but get yourselves a good chef's knife because it'll make cutting peppers so much easier. Okay, so I have some oil and butter heating up in a fairly hot pan because I kind of want to sear this very quickly. If you cook it too long, it's going to get pretty tough. Season it with salt and pepper or whatever you'd like. Go ahead and let it warm up. Now, I put this right from frozen. That's why I love this meat. It can be a last minute decision to throw this together. Look how finely shaved it is. There's no way that I would be able to slice it this thin or buy this at the store this way. M&M Meat Shops is the way to go when you're making these sandwiches. I just like to add some garlic powder, a little bit of garlic salt, a little bit of the no salt seasoning from Kirkland, and some of this Worcestershire sauce just to kind of give it a deeper flavor. I literally cooked this for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, you guys. It does not take any long. Go ahead and remove it from the pan, set it aside. Keep any juices that are in there because that's what we're going to use to help cook up all of our vegetables. Now at this point, I'm basically using the same combination of seasonings that I used in my meat in my vegetables. Also, to avoid using too much oil with these vegetables, I'm using some beef broth to just kind of steam them down a little bit. You don't want them to be super crunchy. These are kind of going to be soft and sitting in your sandwich like a cheesesteak sandwich. Since I sliced my vegetables super thin, they were done in less than 5 minutes as well. I'm going to go ahead and pour the meat in and set it to the side just to keep warm while I get my bread ready. You guys see this Miracle Blade knife? Do you remember that commercial? Well, I'm telling you, this Miracle Blade knife is probably 15 years old and it's phenomenal. I've never sharpened it. It cuts through bread like butter. I went ahead and put these in about a 400-degree oven for about a minute or 2 just to get them warm so I can rub them down with a clove of garlic that I've sliced in half. And just like that, the sandwiches are ready to be put together. Jamie is going to go ahead and make his, Kylie's, and Sebastian's. Annabelle is not into Philly cheesesteak sandwiches, but she did make herself a ham and cheese sandwich on one of these hoagie rolls, which she said was amazing and I needed to try. Now, a little tip if you don't want your lettuce and tomato to get too soggy is to put it on after you've toasted your meat, cheese, and vegetables. I don't mind. I like everything warm, my tomato and lettuce included, so I went ahead and built it all together. I used some provolone and I also used some of the whole grain Dijon mustard. They didn't use it, but I'm telling you, you need to give it a try. I put mayo on one side, mustard on the other, toasted everything in the oven, brought it together, sliced it in half. It was like I was at a deli, you guys. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it really tasted good. Take a look at this. And here you have it. This was our supper for Monday night. For Tuesday, I opted for a classic beef stew. Now I do have another video on this, but I thought I would just share it with you guys again. First, let's run through everything I'm gonna need. I have a huge package of stew beef here that I'm gonna cook up in some oil. I've got russet potatoes, turnips, and carrots, and onions that I like to cook in there. The green onions are to put on top later while I'm eating it. I've got some tomato paste, some beef broth, some beef stock. I've got Worcestershire sauce. I've got actual garlic, even though I usually use the one in the fridge, but I had it, so I figured I'd use it. Beef broth. We need parsley, paprika, garlic powder, dry chopped onion, organic no salt seasoning, black pepper, basil, oregano, and a bay leaf. And guys, you need a little bit of flour to douse your meat in so we can fry it up first. And I'm gonna go ahead and use a gravy packet. I can't believe I got all of that out. First up, we're gonna go ahead and chop up our vegetables. The key to making a stew and not having everything go soggy is to make sure that you know how long each vegetable takes. Carrots and turnips obviously take much longer than potatoes, so I chop them in good enough sizes so that they will cook relevant to the potatoes. Does that make sense? So my potatoes are going to be much larger than what I'm going to slice up my turnips and carrots.
We won't regret this. Let's kiss the past goodbye.
How do you guys cut up your turnip? I've just always learned from my mom to do it in kind of half moons and then slice it with a paring knife. I don't know. It always worked for me. I'm going to go ahead and peel up all of my potatoes as well. Again, I use a paring knife and peel it into my hand. Apparently that's a no-no for some people, but it's how I've been doing it my whole life and I've never cut myself. Knock on wood.
I said, hey, call it a start by leaving behind what's breaking our hearts. I said, hey.
And you guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think of my music selection lately. I have a very eclectic taste, from country to rock to pop to reggae. I love it all, so I'm sharing it with you guys. Anytime I make stew, I find I have to go through the stew pack or the beef and just check the sizes because I want it to be bite-sized pieces. I don't want to need a knife and fork to try and eat this, so I'm going to go ahead, just kind of give it an inspection, trim off any fat that needs to come off, and cut them into the right proportions.
That a thing, don't you? Oh, 'cause as long as.
Next step is to prep the beef in some flour so that you can go ahead and brown it in your pot before you go ahead and add it to the actual stew. This just helps deepen and enrichen the flavor of your beef. I just added some pepper to my flour, and I find using a 1-gallon Ziploc bag the easiest because I dump it all in, shake it around, and then pull it out as I'm putting it into the pot.
Spark ain't nothing but a one-way.
Now here I just have some canola oil heating up in the bottom. You want this relatively high, like a medium-high heat, because you want to sear your meat. I'm going to add some paprika, some minced onion, and also some of the organic no salt seasoning and a little bit of pepper. This is the worst pot for sticking. It's very thin bottom. It's mainly a pasta pot. It has an insert, but it's the only pot I have deep enough to do this. So once everything is seared, I'm gonna go ahead and take it out. It shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes. You're not trying to cook your meat. You're just trying to brown it on the outside. Go ahead and do the second batch. You don't want to do it all at once because you will overcrowd your pan and you'll end up steaming or boiling your meat, and we don't want to do that yet. Next step is to take it aside, go ahead and throw in your onions, add a good amount of tomato paste. I added about 1.5 tablespoons. Stir that up. Look at the bottom of that pan, you guys. It is sticking. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and press all of my garlic cloves. This was so good. I use a lot of prepackaged garlic or the jarred garlic, which is fine, but you can really smell the difference if nothing else. All right, at this point, go ahead and add all your meat back to your onions and garlic. I would normally say saute this for a little while, but where it was sticking so bad, I went ahead and added the rest of my beef broth. I only had about 3/4 cup in here, just to avoid any more sticking issues. I'm gonna go ahead and add the Worcestershire sauce. I mixed up my packet of gravy per the instructions, added that in. I went ahead and made a flour slurry, about 1 cup of water to about 1/2 cup of flour, and I'm gonna go ahead and add one of the OXO seasonings to that as well. I'm gonna go ahead and add all of the other seasonings, oregano, basil. I think I also added some parsley in there, and I end up adding 2 bay leaves because they were kind of small.
I don't wanna say I'm okay.
As for the liquid at this point, it's just dependent on how big of a stew you're making. I like to make sure everything is coated, and remember, we have to pour all the vegetables in there. So what I did is I thinned out my slurry and went and topped it up with more water. And I'm going to give it a look. I'm going to stir it around, see how much more I need, and I end up adding more water. And I did add another package of the OXO. I really want to heighten the flavor of the beef in this stew, and for me, that is the ideal situation. If I had had another gravy packet, I probably would have added that instead. Go ahead and boil these for about 25 to 30 minutes and then set it on a very low simmer, almost like a 1 or 2, just so that your beef is super tender. Now look at this, you guys. Delicious bread. The beef was succulent. The vegetables were not mushy. It was amazing. This was our supper for Tuesday night. With pina coladas. All right, for Wednesday, Belle and I had to go out of town that night, about an hour away. I had a doctor's appointment the next day, so I wanted to leave dinner for the boys because, well, that's what I do. I didn't really have any grand plans, so I just cut them up some vegetables and made them a garden salad, and they went ahead and warmed up some of the pizza bagels I made from my freezer meals last week, which they loved. So they had pizza and fresh salad. He said it was amazing. I'm okay. Now, the best part about the garden salad is you can add whatever you'd like. We like onions, so red onions kind of makes a salad for us. I also added to the lettuce a bag of broccoli slaw that you saw I've got on one of my grocery hauls. It really makes it look like you did something extra for the salad when all you did was open a bag. The other thing I'm doing too is, if you notice, I'm going to cut up the tomato in bite-sized pieces and tuck it aside in another Tupperware container so it doesn't get all wilty and it doesn't wilt the salad. I'm also making the salad in a Rubbermaid Freshworks container because I swear by them. All of my produce is prepped and stored in those. They always keep everything fresh for a good week. Honey, just relax. Okay, so if you haven't already seen how I prep my pizza bagels for the freezer, go ahead and check out my freezer meal video. I will link it down below. But this is what the guys had for supper. They store really easily in this pull-out drawer that I have in my freezer. I love them. They just need to pull them out when they're ready to cook. They cook them at 4 or 425 depending on your oven for about 15 minutes, and they turn out amazing. Look at these, you guys. You will never buy pre-made pizza bagels again. You will always take the extra time, 10 minutes max, to make these up and have them ready for your family to eat at a moment's notice. And I'll listen, 'cause I don't wanna wait every night. I wanna light a spark in the dark. I don't wanna say I'm okay. All right, and really quick, you guys, I just want to show you this recipe from Frugal Fit Mom on YouTube, or Frugal Fit Mom 6 on Instagram. It's her banana bread recipe. Go ahead and check out her video. I added some chocolate chips, but I'm telling you guys, they were delicious. I had to share these with you because I also made these up for the boys before we left. So salad, pizza bagels, and banana muffins was supper for Wednesday night. Okay, so Thursday night was cheese quesadillas. Long story short, when you live on the East Coast, you've got to plan for the weather. Unpredictable weather. So it ended up being a storm day. We were supposed to go out for supper for Kylie's birthday. We ended up doing lunch because the storm was getting worse in the afternoon. So I had to come up with a plan for supper. I always have tortillas. I've always got cheese. So we made cheese quesadillas, and of course I always have sour cream and salsa in the fridge because we are a taco family. Super easy, guys. All I do is pour a little bit of oil in a pan, less or more, it's up to you. I add a little bit of taco seasoning to the tortilla, not very much, and I fill half of it because we're only going to do half. You could do a whole round one if you wanted, with nacho shredded cheese. Now I have my stove on just a little over medium heat, but I'm watching it very closely because I wanted to toast and crisp up and melt the cheese. This is basically like making a grilled cheese, only you're using a tortilla. So just stay near your pan and don't be in a rush to put it too high so you don't want it to burn. Now these were just for a couple of the kids and they're a little bit more fussy, hence just cheese, but you could add onions, tomatoes, peppers, chicken, whatever you'd like. If I had chicken, I probably would have put it in for them, but like I said, this was an improv night, so it's not something I had on hand. I was working with what was in the fridge. And just serve this up with whatever condiments you like. We like the Kirkland salsa from Costco and just some regular sour cream. Belle literally inhaled this. I also want to show you guys an example of cooking one up with a little bit more oil in the pan. You'll see how it bubbled up a little bit. So basically I had about a centimeter, like a very small amount of oil covering the bottom of the pan. I dropped the tortilla right into it and it kind of starts to bubble up immediately. And you'll get this crispier texture if that's something that you're into and you're not really watching your oils. Look at this cheese pull, you guys. These are a crowd pleaser every time I make them, and for some reason we don't make them that often. But I love that I always have the supplies in the cupboard to be able to do it.
What are you doing? Did Mama drop cheese? Did I drop cheese?
And here we are, we made it to another Friday. I feel like we need to celebrate that every week. And today I am celebrating with Juicy Lucy burgers. This recipe has been popping up on my YouTube suggested and my Pinterest like there was no tomorrow. So it's finally happening. And I'm warning you, if it doesn't turn out, we're ordering pizza. So let's get right into this. All right, guys, for the burgers, we are keeping it super simple. We're just using medium ground beef. I will season them with salt and pepper on the grill. I'm going to throw those onion rings into the Ninja Foodie and just air fry those. Super awesome. They're very good. As for the cheese, you could use what you like. I've heard that processed works better. I've never made these before. FYI, it did turn out amazing. You're just going to take these singles, quarter them up, and put as much or as little as you'd like. As for condiments and vegetables, just tomatoes, lettuce, mustard, ketchup, relish. I put some jalapenos and banana peppers on the side. Nobody really dove into those. Nobody was feeling adventurous tonight. And like I said, I'm using my Ninja Foodie to air fry, and I'm using the Starfrit Rock grill. Like I said, I swear by my pans and I swear by this griddle. Awesome, nothing sticks or burns. Obviously, if I am cooking beef, my entourage is very close by. All right, guys, let's get into these burgers. All right, so this is what I like to do to make my burgers, or if I'm trying to get them very flat. If you have a burger press, then power to you, but I do not have one. So we are using a pot, which is roughly the size of the burger patty that I want, some parchment paper. If you had a can or something, I have a jar here. It's just what I grabbed, or you could just use your fist just to press it out and get it super flat, because this is going to be 2 layers. You're going to take your cheese in quarters. I ended up using 3/4 of a slice, so 3 little squares, and then you're going to do another patty, and then you're going to put that on top and close it all together. So it's going to wind up being relatively thick, so you want to make sure you get those patties a little extra thin. So you can see here I used the other parchment paper to kind of help meld it together. I just find that that worked best. And then I'm just using my hands to shape it out. And here it is, the perfect little patty. Next, I ended up using my fist to push down the patty because I realized that I was touching the meat, and then I touched the relish jar and I had a momentary lapse of judgment. So use your fist unless it's something you know you're going to sanitize later. Now, I ended up making 5 of the Juicy Lucy burgers and 1 normal because I knew there would be somebody in my clan who didn't want it, and I was right. It was Sebastian. Now, I realize I am probably committing some sort of food sin by pressing on my meat, but it's what I do, you guys. They still turn out delicious and juicy. This is very fatty. I'm not worried about losing any of that flavor. I'm going to go ahead and throw my frozen onion rings in the air fryer. These took about 22 minutes at 375. Also, we're using these brioche buns, which I do toast a little bit on the griddle. It worked out perfectly. Now I am using just a roast pan to cover these up and steam them a little bit to make sure that they're fully cooked through. I don't like medium or medium rare, like well done burgers, but I don't want them to be dry either. I love this griddle as well because I can push all the debris from the pan right into this little shelf that slides underneath, pull it out and dump it in the garbage. I'm pretty basic, you guys. Pickles, onions, tomatoes, lettuce, ketchup, and relish. I didn't even put mustard. I want you to see the cheese that is about to ooze out of this incredible burger. There was a moment of silence there. Did you get that? Anyway, this was incredible, guys. I was super proud of myself. All right, I can't believe I have not heard of Juicy Lucy burgers until this past week and a half. I have watched a lot of YouTube videos and read a lot of Pinterest recipes, but I am super satisfied with how this turned out. This is going to become the new normal for how I make our cheeseburgers, I'm telling you right now. And of course, MJ and Roxy approve. You guys, thank you so much for watching my video today. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Take a second and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Don't forget to check out my What's for Dinner next weekend.